Poulin. I'm a producer for Wonderful Machine, and this is the web assessment for Shahzad's photography website. I think going into this, it was very clear you're very interested in having a website that feels more fashion forward and has its emphasis on fashion, but also beauty. So first, I just want to talk about my first impressions. Let me click over to your homepage. Um, there is some really great work here. Your work is beautifully lit. I love the richness of color that comes through. The use of lighting is amazing, and the motion that's captured in some of these fashion shots, that's exactly what a fashion client would be looking for. So there's definitely a lot of potential for tweaking the site and making your imagery the star of the show. I think the best way to work through this project is just to go page by page. So I will also show you some additional websites, and I actually have them tabbed here ready to go. And then I will be referencing your imagery that you sent over. I had a chance to look at everything, and I have some great recommendations. I think some of my suggestions will be adding photography, and then I will have you take some photography away, or at least make the recommendation of taking some photography away. And really, it's not because I don't like a shot, it's just to have the consistency and flow of the website feel a little bit more cohesive. So let's start off with your landing page. Okay, so here's your landing page. You know, I think the issue with this, and really it's just the biggest issue, is I don't see your picture here. I need a photo right away when I'm pulling up a photographer's website. I don't want to have a landing page and not know exactly, what kind of vibe the photographer is, or, you know, what I'm actually going to be diving into. So this is a great opportunity for you to pick your favorite photo and it becomes your landing page. In addition to that, your heading needs to be in a place where once you go to the home page, it's going to always be there. That should be a seamless move. So this should come up. Your navigation should go across, and it should match perfectly. One of the things, I do think you need to work on is the logo. The logo is different from here to here. I actually prefer this. I think this is great, but there's also a way maybe you could play with this a little bit because your name is very strong. Maybe it's done in lowercase, maybe Shahzad is in uppercase and your last name is in lowercase. I would definitely play with it a little bit. This looks more interesting to me than what you actually have on your homepage. This feels a little bit too aggressive. And it may just be because it's a black background and we're looking at white on a black background. So I would definitely work with the logo a little bit. Something I want to point out, and you might actually hear this a couple times, and I do think it's that important, is that contact me should always be a part of your primary navigation, and it should be a hyperlink to both. Let me just pull it up. It should be a hyperlink to your email, which you have, which is great, but you should also hyperlink the phone information. The reason is because a lot of clients, your producers are going to be on set. A lot of people are going to look at your website on their phone. So you don't want to miss an opportunity of them paging through some information and then clicking on it. Okay, so you just want that to be consistent all the time. Contact me. It's a constant reminder that all they have to do is click this and get you on the phone or write that email. I think as long as we're talking, I think this definitely needs to be tweaked, but I think across the site, I think you should look for another font that feels a little bit more fashion forward, maybe a little lighter, a little cleaner. Kristen actually does this really well. See, even though it is like this is a standard font, but it's way smaller. It's grayed out, and then when you hover, it turns black. Um, but it still looks light. It doesn't feel aggressive. Again, that might have to do with the background. You could see John's choice here. Again, it's a very basic font, but it just looks cleaner and softer. And even take note, like he has everything in caps, but it just looks very clean. Travis, same thing. We go to Travis's homepage. Now he plays with his logo a little bit more, but again, everything is very clean and just doesn't feel so, for lack of a better word, aggressive when you look at it. So that kind of brings me to your background color. I feel like because your imagery is so rich in color, showing your photos on black is really taking away from the actual art you're creating. Like if you see here, you really can't tell where the picture ends and the background begins. And I think that happens a couple times in your photos. You have these great photos, but they just don't have a place of their own. So if you take something like, if you click on her and you see now so much more of the photo because it's not distracting. I could see, I'm paying attention to this detail here. I'm looking down here. I could see a separation here. But the problem is when you go to, to have it on a black background, I'm not seeing as much. I'm kind of distracted. I'm looking at the next photo. When the photos are half down, I'm not really concentrating. It's not giving me a good point to concentrate on. So that's why you'll see with photographers why they do show their portfolios on white, and it's to give the image air and to let it breathe. And it also helps the viewer because the viewer's eye won't be strained. So you want to be able to make it a nice experience for them paging through and really looking at it. I think that if you go with a white or a light gray, that would be a great idea. It's just going to help accomplish that a little bit better. So let's go back to the overview. I do want to just make a little sidebar note. I would remove this Vogue from the image. And, initially I was wondering why you chose to run your navigation across. Since we're going to be combining your primary navigation, you're going to have a lot less of it. So what I see us ultimately winding up with would be portfolio overview, which is actually optional, but I'll get into that. I'd like to combine projects and client work and just call that portfolio and have a drop down from there. Behind the scenes, I think we should keep. And I think we could combine accolades and something called Meet the Artist. So maybe it says Meet the Artist, and then accolades, publications, and awards could go under Meet the Artist. I would like you to pull contact as an actual part of your primary navigation here. That way, again, give them every reason to contact you. Hyperlink everything. Now, if you want to keep the copy, this was something that I was kind of, thinking about. Typically, you don't see any copy on photographers' websites. However, sometimes you'll see a photographer will do a little write-up about, a specific project that he worked on if he was passionate about it. this really only works when you have a left-hand navigation, because I don't want to see any copy on these beautiful photos. I mean, it just kind of, it takes away from what I'm looking at. Um, I think that, you know, you can have this if you have a left-hand navigation. So let me show you a left-hand navigation that works. So John Olive does this well. As you can see, you could click on work and then it goes into fashion and lifestyle. So if you wanted to do something like, you know, if you clicked on this and it said Indian Renaissance, then, you know, maybe you could work at that. You could put a description down here. Maybe it's in gray just so it has a little bit of background. But really what I'm learning from my many, many years is, as a producer, we really don't need the description of a project. We just want to see the final work. So it isn't necessary, but I would recommend that if you want to keep the copy, you need to move to a left-hand navigation. Some good ideas for top-hand navigation. Kristen does a beautiful job. Travis does a beautiful job. Again, this is his landing page. There's his imagery right away that he probably changes seasonally. And so I think we could really just, I think if we tweak your actual fonts and keep them light, I think that we could keep it as a top-hand navigation, maybe have your logo kind of left justified, and then, you know, the navigation would come over here. So going back, I would say, you know, portfolio overview was something that I was thinking about. And it's really because you're just starting off in the photography world. I think portfolio overview really could be optional. You could lose portfolio overview. If you choose to keep it, just make sure you're picking the best image from each project, one image, and make sure that the backgrounds and the flow of the work go well together. And I would literally just pick one. If you are keeping portfolio overview, this would be a good place where you could actually do, your product shots and maybe pick one or two product shots. I would actually pick two product shots and I could actually cover that later. But again, not entirely necessary. Moving on, I would do projects and client work could combine into one, and we'll call that portfolio. We'll keep behind the scenes. Accolades can move under meet your artist. So accolades goes away, information goes away, and we're just going to call it meet your artist. And then the final tab should be contact. We want contact there all the time. So let's talk about meet your artist. So in this section, we are going to have, you know, hey, this is who I am. I would like to see your bio be, you know, personal. Maybe it has a hint of your personality. This is great. I like ever since I was a boy, I had a deep appreciation for the visual medium, the storytelling. I think all that's great. I would like you to see you remove your achievements. And the reason is we could do a link to the achievements under here, or we could list them under here. Achievements, accolades, I would almost use them and somehow work them into the bottom of the page. Give them the option to check that out, but it's, you know, doesn't have to be really its own thing as we have here, like publications and awards. When we talk about like the photo of you, I think it's a great photo. It's a professional photo. It is something you would see like kind of on LinkedIn. or something like that. But what it lacks is, I'm not getting a feel for your personality. Um, I want to either be able to look at that photo and understand who you are, like personally in your personality, or I would like to get a sense of your photography style in that shot. So I think you could probably pick a better shot, or maybe you want to set a new one up. Something that's gonna feel more like, hey, this is who I am, and look, it actually goes through all the way to um, my bio picture. So, it may be even something as easy as changing it to black and white or something like that. But I do think that, this feels a little too businessy for the fashion world. If you look at other photographers' websites and just look at their bio pictures, a lot of them have them with cameras in their hands, or, they're behind the scenes. You kind of see them, you kind of don't. So I think it would be a good idea for you to just really change that a little bit, just so we get a sense more of your style, and it'll be something different than you would see on LinkedIn. You do such beautiful lighting. I'd like to see it come across even in this profile picture. So as I said, the contact me, I want it to be its own part of I want it to be its own part of the navigation. In addition, so again, you would have portfolio overview. We're going to combine these to portfolio, keep behind the scenes. This goes away and falls under meet your artist. Contact me comes up here. And then I would like the privacy policy, although it's necessary, we don't need it as a part of the drop down. It just seems like a waste of space. If you could do like an orphan link down here, or it could be part of your heading where it would click to the privacy policy. I think that's totally fine. As a secondary navigation, it would be a good idea to take these, your Facebook link and your Instagram link, and I would like you to put them as a secondary navigation. So they go right up here. So as we're clicking through everything and we see something we really like and we're like, wow, this is great. You know what? I just want to see what else this guy's done. Let's follow him on Instagram, so I could just keep him in the back of my mind. So it would be right there for the taking. I think if you're going to do that, I would do Instagram listed first, then Facebook, then LinkedIn. I do want to caution you that when I was clicking through your site, I clicked on your Facebook and it's saying this page isn't available. So just please make sure that everything is hyperlinked correctly, and that it takes you where it's supposed to go. So if we go to what we're now going to call portfolio, we would click on portfolio. So we'll just pretend this says portfolio, and I would list them as a drop down list as first beauty, then fashion, and I'm going to suggest a fashion 1 and a fashion 2. Then we could break out Renaissance, 80s femme fatale, and then the Sorry Project. Again, remove the copy, and I would like the images, once you open something up, I would like to see them a little bit smaller here, and then again, just to give them that, and then once you click on them, I like to see them larger here. I think that gives you your best representation, and it allows the client or the producer to really look at what they're doing, or the art director or creative director. So let's talk about beauty first. Now this is when I'm going to be going back and forth between your images and try and relate them to this. So if we're going to click on portfolios, which envelops these two, the first drop down I would like to see is beauty. So let's pull up those images. Okay. So you know that barefaced, clean images help sell you to a beauty company. So, I mean, they go beyond makeup, as you know. It's not just makeup, but it's spa, it's skincare. Um, so I think, you know, it's harder to almost capture someone who has no makeup on and looks beautiful naturally. You make the skin glisten and, you know, catching that healthy glow than it is to, you know, do interesting makeup and, you know, add in all this color. I think the beautiful clean skin sells better, especially to beauty magazines, to um, beauty clients, really. So I'm going to go through what I think would be best representative of your beauty shots. And again, this is just a recommendation. So if you feel differently, it's, you know, not a problem. I think you should lead with either this one or this one. So number 1 or number 3. They really are gorgeous shots. She's a beautiful girl. Her skin is glowing. I think it's great if you would do. I'd like to see your website go in a grouping of 2. Not do it right now. You have 2 rows, but then you also populate it with a third image that takes up space. Totally fine with that, but I happen to pick images that would wind up with 2 rows. So you could really play with that as far as how your gallery is going to look. If you want to take an image away or add an image to give you that uneven number in order to do 2 profiles and a horizontal, however you want to do it. I just happened to pick even numbers of images as I was working through your project. So again, we're going to lead with her. And then I think I would choose 5 or 6 and then 7 or 8. If I were to make the choice, my choice would be 5 and 7. I think they look different enough. I would group those together, or I would group these together. And then I would like to see number 9, actually. I would like to see her grouped with who you already have on the website. I would like to see her grouped with this, with number 4. I'm also okay with number 10. However, I just feel like this kind of looks a little bit better. The other one seems a little bit too close up and needs some retouching, but this looks pretty good as is. So I would match that one with number 4. If I were to pick 2 more images, I would use this one. This one does need some cleaning up as far as just for a beauty image. And don't be afraid to retouch. You know, you want to present your best work. So I would clean up here, clean up the baby hair here, just maybe smooth this out a little bit here, and maybe you fill in her hair a little bit. Clean it up, fill it in. But other than that, this is a great shot. I love the intensity in her eyes. So I would go with this one. And then to round it out, I was thinking about 14. But again, 14 needs a little work. We need to clean this up, clean it up here, clean up her shoulder, remove the baby bangs. And you just want to make sure that everything is nice and sharp. I would even smooth this out slightly. But yeah, so then that would be your match for that one. Those are the ones that I actually like for the beauty shots. So let's move on to your fashion. Now fashion, because you have so much fashion to populate this, I think we could break it up in a couple different ways. Okay, so I think if we're going to, again, this says portfolio, click on it. First one that comes down is beauty. Second one that comes down is fashion. And then the subcategories of that. So the way that I would do it is I would do fashion one, and I'll tell you what will go into fashion one, then fashion two, and I'll tell you what goes into that, and then we'll fill in with the rest of your stories underneath that. So I would lead with cyberpunk. In the cyberpunk story, I already like what you chose. They're definitely the best 10 images of the story. I would, again, you see how the gallery goes with one big one and then two small ones. I'm totally fine with that. However, let's make them smaller. Let's give them a lot of air in between so they're not on top of each other. And then when you click to them, boom, bigger, and you could see the different layers of the actual image that you're showing. So definitely cyberpunk. And then, so in fashion one would be cyberpunk and also Eric Vaughn. So I'm actually curious to why you didn't include Eric Vaughn in any of your picks, because these are definitely something that feels more fashion forward to me, especially these images down here. And I'll show you which ones are my favorite. The styling of the imagery even feels more fashion. And they might need a little bit of work as far as just like cleanup work, but the imagery is great. So maybe we go with Eric Vaughn. I like number 11, which is this one. And I like number 12. And I think, it really, those two images, this image, I mean, I feel like it really encapsulates that high fashion is what you're looking for. And I think when it comes to, art buyers and producers, that feels more high fashion to me. So again, 12, 13, I like 14, 15, and 16. All of these are great images. But I would think that you do need to clean them up a little bit, remove the flyaways, maybe fill in her hair a little bit, clean up the hair here. But you have some this is a really great base for for a good fashion shot. So let's just do it. Let's put in a little bit of extra time with the image. And then we would add that to the cyberpunk story. So you're making this again fashion one. So I think that doing a little of that post-production work on the photos to help present them, that's a no-brainer to me. I feel like it's absolutely necessary, but I think it's necessary all the time with all photographers. So just a little bit of cleanup is going to make them go a long way. So also in the fashion one story, I would like to add, let me go back here. Also in the fashion one story, I would like the Latvia styling shoot. I think that, and also, keep in mind that I'm trying to make like colors and styles and have them be similar. So you can kind of just do a fashion one and do a meet, like they're flowing into each other, they look amazing, and you can mix them up. So if there's a white background on the Latvia styling, if there's a white background on cyberpunk, you could kind of put those together and kind of mix them in, and it kind of makes them feel more full. But I think some of the images you have for Latvia styling would just go great with the cyberpunk and the Eric Vaughn. So this again would probably fill up your fashion one. drop down. My picks for this particular shoot would be number 2, number 3, number 7, number 11, this one, number 14, and number 17. Those feel like your strongest shots right now. I like the movements and the shocks of color on these. So I think that you should absolutely add them. In addition, I would include the SKD images that you have under client work here. And I would just use, let me pull them up here. Sorry. The SKD apparel. I would use, out of these images, number 20 and number 9. So here's your number 9, and I would use 20. And that could kind of round out, you know, your fashion forward. It's a studio shoot, and it feels, you know, it feels very complete. So going back, let me just get this ready for the next one. So we are in, again, this was going to say portfolio. We had fashion 1, we had beauty. I think our next drop down could be fashion 2. I think for fashion 2, I would do the lookbook images. Let's pull those up. So you do have some great images here. I'm actually open to whatever your choices would be in this section. But what you have right now for lookbook, so let's look at that. I would say definitely use this imagery of the gentleman here, all of this. And then this comes out because we're putting it in another section. These come out, we're putting them in another section. But maybe you do use this, and you use this, this, and this. And that kind of rounds out your fashion 2, okay? Going back to here where your portfolio is, the next on the drop down, I would definitely do the Indian Renaissance. The reason why I want it to be, I don't want to mix it in with anything else. I want it to be its own story, and that's because it's so beautifully lit and it's so strong that you want to call it out on its own. I think the biggest issue with the Indian Renaissance is that you want to make sure that we have, and this is across the board, and I know I've said it before, but make sure that those images have enough white between them so they're easy to look at. And like just right off the bat, I would pair this one with this one because of the background, and then maybe move into like the brown backgrounds and then go into the darker backgrounds, the ones that are almost black. You want to be careful not to be too redundant with your picks. So if you're using this image, maybe you don't use this image, vice versa. The same thing with this one and this one. This is different from this, but maybe you choose one of these. You just don't want it to feel too redundant. The same thing with this image right here and this image right here. I think that this image and this image are different enough in their poses and the veil, so I would suggest keeping both of those. The next section in our portfolios, right here, is going to be the femme fatale. So let's go and find her. And I think you actually call this femme fatale because really, that's it. That's the story. Um, I love the story, but this was definitely the hardest piece to fit into your site. It's great work, but it's so different than any of the other galleries you have. Um, if you want to include it, I personally would. I would call it Femme Fatale, and my picks here, let me pull them up. Here she is. My picks for this one would be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 9, and number 10. Then I came to look when I was looking at your photos. I am kind of on the fence as if you should include this on your actual site, just because it is so different um, than anything else. They're beautiful photos. I'm just not sure if you need to call out a whole story. Um, my recommendation would be to leave this story off. It doesn't, and it's not fashion forward. Um, I do love the photography, so if you feel strongly about keeping it as its own gallery, I'm completely open to that, and it would just be under here. I would list it after Femme Fatale, and then I would list this. I would list the Sorry Project. But again, I was kind of on the fence about keeping it. It's beautiful work, but it does feel it feels so different from your other work. Um, Again, that's just a recommendation. Now, I do want to talk to you about your product. I know I had this conversation with you on the phone where product and fashion, they just kind of go hand in hand. I think it's a good idea to show some product photography, and never be afraid to, especially with product, like never be afraid to just do a test shoot and try some things out and see if you like them. Um, but I would say there's 4 solid shots. So to me, 4 solid shots is enough to get started with. So if you were going to, you know, um, in your portfolio, that could be after Femme Fatale or after Sorry if you keep it. But I would list product, and it just kind of shows the client that you're open to shooting still life. I know a lot of our clients that are high fashion, they want the photographer to be able to capture not only the beautiful lifestyle and the fashion, but also want them to be able to, on set, on location, if they place the sunglasses a certain way, to be able to capture that and to capture that, high fashion field. So again, not totally sold on it, but I feel that it would nicely round out your portfolio. And if you are going to do that, I would go with image 1, image 2. Image 3 is okay, but there's not a lot of happening. If you had this spraying, that would actually be interesting and might be something you want to try. But I also like image 10 and I like image 11. Um, I would say stay away from the food entirely. Food photographers, they are in a world of their own. And the same thing with jewelry photography. There's so much about controlling the light while shooting. It's a very hard craft to perfect. So you want to stay away from those kinds of things. But I think with those 4 images, that's pretty solid. And I think it would be a good idea for you to try it. So I would add that to right here under project, or I'm sorry, under portfolio, under fashion, and then it just becomes one of the drop downs where you could just call it product. So I think overall, um, I think I would recommend you trying Squarespace. Instead, I think you use Wix for this one. I would try Squarespace because I feel like Squarespace is going to give you a lot of opportunities. It's really easy to work with, and the templates give you a great variety. Um, so maybe you get off of Wix and try Squarespace. And I know a lot of the photographers do use Squarespace for their shoots. I think it's just a good idea. Again, just a recommendation. I don't know as much about Wix, but I know that you could get the desired look on Squarespace. One thing I do want to show you too, which was um, I think just something you just want to be aware of. So if I click on projects and I click on Indian Renaissance, great, that comes up here as its own tab. If I click on Ode to Sorry, here's another tab, Cyberpunk. I'm looking through your website, and then I realized that I had a million tabs open. You know, it becomes bulky, it becomes cumbersome. So I think going on Squarespace actually will help with that also. Um, so I think that, you know, that is a good option for you. And I think that, you know, you have the nuts and bolts to make the site exactly what you want. And I think that it could easily be accomplished to be more of a beauty fashion site. So um, I think it would be great if we move forward. And if you have any questions, of course, I would love to set up a review meeting with you next week. I'll be in touch over email and we could set up a review meeting, and I'd be happy to go over any questions. We could talk through anything you may have need further clarity on. Um, but with that being said, I think that I've covered everything. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.